The spaceship drifted silently through the stars, its metal skin reflecting the faint light of distant suns. Inside, Lieutenant Mara Collins adjusted the controls and peered through the main viewport. Ahead, a cluster of strange luminescent planets hung like ornaments in the black void. Humanity had explored countless worlds before, but these systems were new, uncharted, and humming with possibilities. Every mission brought surprises, but nothing could have prepared Mara and her crew for what awaited them. The ship shivered slightly as it passed near the gravitational pull of the first planet, a massive gas giant swirling in green and purple hues. The crew knew this mission was delicate. They were supposed to make contact with an alien species rumored to inhabit the small, rocky world orbiting it. Rumors were all they had. No human had ever met this species before. The scientists aboard had studied intercepted signals, strange patterns of light and sound, and snippets of alien transmissions that were difficult to decode. But theories alone were not enough. Contact meant stepping into the unknown, and the unknown had a way of testing humans in ways no training could prepare them for. Mara leaned back and rubbed her eyes. "You know," she said quietly to the co-pilot, "Raj, sometimes I wonder if they're even ready for us." Raj looked up from his console, a small smile on his face. "Or maybe it's the other way around," he replied. "Maybe we're the ones who will be confused." Mara chuckled softly, but her smile faded as the sensors beeped. Something was moving on the surface of the planet below. Not ships, not machines. Something alive. The readings were unlike anything in the human database. Raj squinted at the screen. "It's big, and it's not alone." A sudden knock on the bulkhead startled them. "Doctor!" Elara Quinn, the ship's xenobiologist, stepped into the cockpit, her eyes bright with excitement. "I think I'm finally going to see them," she said, almost whispering, as though speaking too loudly would scare the creatures away. Mara raised an eyebrow.
"You mean meet them? Or just watch from here?" Elara shook her head.
"Meet. From what the scans show, they are aware of us. They are intelligent. And they might be curious?" She paused and glanced at Mara. "Curious in a way humans don't usually encounter." Mara felt a chill run down her spine. That word, curious, was both exciting and terrifying. Human history was full of first encounters, and some had gone well, but others had ended in disaster. She tightened her grip on the console. "All right," she said, trying to steady her voice. "Let's approach carefully. I want visual confirmation before anyone thinks about landing." The shuttle descended slowly through the planet's atmosphere. Outside the viewport, the landscape stretched in strange colors, violet sands and glowing trees whose branches seemed to float in the windless air. The planet felt alive, vibrant, almost sentient, and it gave Mara the strange sensation that they were being watched. And they were. The first figure appeared in a clearing below. It was tall, much taller than a human, with limbs that moved in a fluid, almost liquid way. Its skin shimmered with iridescence, reflecting the light of the alien sun like a mirror. The creature paused and tilted its head, observing the shuttle. Mara held her breath. The being had no face as humans would recognize it, but it radiated intelligence. And then it spoke, or rather, projected sound directly into their minds. Human. The word was soft, melodic, and carried a hint of amusement. "Is what's between my legs confusing you? Is that why you stare so weirdly?" Mara blinked. Her hand hovered over the controls. The other crew members froze. The voice, or thought, was playful, teasing even, but it carried no threat. Mara felt heat rise to her cheeks. She had been staring, yes, trying to understand the anatomy of this creature, but she had never expected it to notice, let alone comment. Elara, surprisingly calm, leaned forward. "It's reading our attention," she said. "It knows what we're thinking, and it has a sense of humor." The creature lowered its limbs in what seemed like a bow, or perhaps a gesture of greeting. Its voice returned, again in their minds, this time gentler. Do not fear, human. You are awkward, yes. But I find your curiosity charming. Mara swallowed hard. Curiosity, charm. Two human qualities the creature recognized even from afar. She realized in that moment that the alien species did not see humans as weak or strange. They saw humans as capable of noticing, questioning, and learning. Traits that were rare across the galaxy. The shuttle finally touched down on a smooth clearing of violet sand. The hatch opened, and Mara led the way, her boots making faint impressions in the soft ground. The alien remained where it stood, watching, moving in ways that seemed to defy human biomechanics. It extended one of its long, shimmering limbs. Mara stepped forward slowly, keeping her hands visible and calm. I'm Lieutenant Mara Collins, she said. We come in peace. The alien tilted its head again, seemingly considering her words. Then, with a movement that looked almost like a bow, it responded. I am called Lysira. Peace is acceptable. Curiosity is allowed. You may approach. Mara felt a shiver of relief. The first contact, the moment humans had theorized and trained for, was happening. And it was nothing like she had expected. It wasn't fear. It wasn't hostility. It was an exchange of intelligence, curiosity, and a hint of humor that humans rarely received in first encounters. As the rest of the crew stepped out of the shuttle, Mara observed the alien more closely. Its features were difficult to describe in human terms. Lysira's form was elegant, symmetrical, and functional in ways humans could not immediately understand. Its movements were precise, almost mechanical, but with fluidity that suggested emotion. And those eyes, or what served as eyes, studied them with an intensity that was both thrilling and humbling. Alara approached cautiously. Lysira, we have many questions, she said, about your world, your species, everything. Lysira seemed to consider her words, then made a small, almost playful sound in their minds. Then you will have answers. But first, you must understand observation.
Mara frowned. Observation? Yes, Lysira replied.
To understand, humans often look too quickly, too loudly, too plainly. Watch, notice, learn. Only then can curiosity become understanding.
Mara felt a strange mix of frustration and excitement.
They had come expecting to teach, perhaps even dominate in intellect. Instead, they were being taught by an alien whose humor and intelligence were unmatched, and the remark that had initially embarrassed her, about staring at what was confusing, was not meant to insult. It was a lesson. The crew spent hours following Lysira through the violet forest, learning to move quietly, to observe the shimmer of plant life, to recognize patterns in light and sound that humans had never noticed. Every moment was a test, a puzzle, and a revelation. Mara realized that the alien was showing them something profound. Intelligence was not about strength, not about weapons or machines. It was about noticing what others overlooked, understanding nuance, and adapting with thought and creativity. By the time the sun of the alien planet began to set, painting the sky with streaks of gold and violet, Mara understood the first, most important truth of this encounter. Humans were not insignificant. They were awkward, yes, and they stumbled through misunderstanding. But their curiosity, their empathy, and their willingness to learn made them capable of achieving what few species could. And Lysira, in its quiet, teasing way, had just begun to notice it. As the crew returned to the shuttle, Mara took one last look at the alien figure. Lysira's luminous form shimmered in the dim light, a living reminder that first impressions could deceive, that learning was a journey, and that humans, awkward, curious, resilient humans, had a place in the galaxy that no one could underestimate. She smiled, a mix of relief and determination. Whatever challenges awaited, whatever mysteries the stars held, humanity had taken its first step, and it had done so with grace, intelligence, and just enough humor to disarm even the most curious of aliens. The next morning, the crew of the shuttle awoke to the soft glow of the alien sun spilling across the violet sands. Mara Collins stretched, feeling the excitement of yesterday's encounter still buzzing in her chest. Lysira's playful question, the one about what had initially embarrassed her, had transformed in her mind from awkwardness into a lesson. Observation, curiosity, understanding. These were the keys, she realized, not only to surviving this encounter, but to truly connecting with an alien intelligence. The shuttle's interior buzzed quietly with activity as the crew prepared to explore deeper into the forest. Raj tapped at his console, checking environmental data.
Atmosphere is safe.
Gravity's slightly heavier than Earth's, but nothing we can't handle. Radiation levels are low. Life signs are abundant, but unfamiliar. He frowned at the screen. I'm telling you, Mara, these readings don't make sense. Nothing on this planet follows the rules we know.
Alara Quinn, ever curious, tilted her head at the data. That's what makes it exciting. We get to study it firsthand.
Remember, no preconceived notions. Let the planet and Lysera teach us. Mara nodded. We follow their lead. Observation first. Interaction second. The shuttle doors hissed as they opened, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of something floral, metallic, and sweet, all at once. The colors of the forest seemed to shift depending on the angle, almost as if the light itself danced with the plants. Mara led the crew outside, each step sinking slightly into the soft violet sand. Lysera waited a short distance ahead, shimmering in the early light. Good, Lysera said in their minds, its voice melodic and calm. You returned. Curiosity persists. This is encouraging. Mara felt a thrill. Encouragement from an alien that no human had ever met. She nodded, though Lysera could not see her gesture in the human sense. We are ready to learn, she said. Lysera's form shifted slightly, limbs flowing like liquid ribbons. Then you will see, it said, leading them toward a cluster of trees whose branches seemed to float above the ground. Observe carefully. Do not rush. The crew spread out, trying to follow. Mara noticed the subtle differences between each tree, the way the leaves refracted light, the slight movement of branches even without wind, and tiny creatures flitting among them that resembled neither birds nor insects. Raj reached out, fascinated, and touched a glowing leaf. The leaf pulsed softly, retracting as if shy. Raj jumped back, embarrassed. Lysera's voice echoed in their minds again, tinged with amusement.
Human hesitation is expected. Do not fear.
Learn first, then touch. You see patterns, yes? But do you understand them? Mara smiled at Raj. See, it's teaching us patience. Hours passed as Lysera guided them through the forest. The humans quickly realized that their normal ways of observing, pointing, touching, and quickly drawing conclusions, did not work here. Plants responded subtly to attention, changing color or position based on focus. Sounds carried hidden meaning, even in the gentle rustling of leaves. Lysera moved effortlessly, interpreting these signs, while the humans stumbled and corrected themselves again and again. At one point, Mara paused near a cluster of trees that glowed faintly. A small creature darted from branch to branch, its eyes like tiny stars. She watched, fascinated, and realized that the creature's movements were not random. They followed a rhythm. She mimicked the motion with her hand, unsure why, and the creature paused, cocking its head as if acknowledging her effort. Raj whispered, It responded to you, Mara. because I'm special, she said softly, but because I noticed the pattern. Lysera appeared beside her, its form rippling. Yes, human. Observation alone is rare. Pattern recognition is rarer.
You begin to understand. Even with progress, misunderstandings were inevitable.
At one point, Alara reached out to touch a floating flower, and it recoiled sharply, releasing a cloud of tiny sparkling spores that floated around her like glitter. She laughed nervously.
Well, that was unexpected. Lysera's voice entered their minds again, tinged with laughter. Human curiosity is admirable. But remember, observation first, interaction second.
You learn quickly, but your impulse is still obvious. Mara chuckled. Guess we're still awkward.
Yes, Lysera replied, but adaptiveness is valuable.
You will improve. By midday, the crew had been walking for hours, absorbing information, noting patterns, and struggling with their own assumptions. Mara realized that the lesson extended beyond the forest. Humans often assumed that intelligence was measured by speed or brute capability. Here, in the subtle responses of plants, creatures, and Lysera itself, intelligence was measured by awareness, patience, and careful analysis. Then came a challenge. Lysera stopped near a shallow pool of water, its surface reflecting the sky in perfect clarity. "Observe," it said. "This pool holds more than reflection. Understand its message and you will understand much of this world." The crew leaned over, staring at their reflections, but the surface shimmered, shifting to show not their faces, but patterns of light and color, like a moving puzzle. Every movement they made changed the patterns. Mara frowned. "I don't understand." "What am I supposed to see?" "Human." Lysera's voice was patient. "You think too quickly. You seek an answer. Watch. Do not act. Notice how your presence affects the water. Notice how patterns emerge. Learn without interference." The crew followed the advice. Mara closed her eyes briefly, breathing steadily. Slowly, she began to notice that every shift in her body, every slight movement, caused corresponding changes in the patterns. Colors flowed differently. Shapes shifted. She realized that the water responded to intent, not touch. Alara gasped. "It's almost like it knows what we want to do before we do it." "Yes," Lysera said, shimmering brightly. "Intent is recognized here. Observation without judgment allows understanding. Your species is unusual. You are not always precise, but your curiosity allows you to see what others miss." Raj leaned over the pool cautiously, made a small, hesitant gesture with his hand, and the patterns responded gently. "I think I get it," he murmured. "We're learning to communicate differently, not with words, but with awareness." Lysera's form rippled with what humans interpreted as pride. Yes, human. And this is the beginning. Many species fail here because they assume control, assume dominance, assume knowledge. You assume curiosity. That is promising. The lesson continued for hours. Mara and her crew discovered that small, careful observations led to more profound understanding than forceful attempts to manipulate the environment. Even their attempts to communicate with Lysera became more subtle. Gestures, focus, and patience replaced words. The aliens' humor persisted, always teasing gently but never unkindly, reminding them of their own limitations and rewarding careful thought. By late afternoon, fatigue began to set in. The violet forest glowed warmly in the fading light, and the crew gathered near the pool to rest. Mara took a deep breath, reflecting on the day. "I've never felt so challenged," she admitted quietly to Raj. Raj nodded. "But in a good way, it's like we're learning the rules of a new universe, not through force, not through tools, but by noticing." Alara leaned back, her eyes glowing softly in the alien light.
And I think Lysera enjoys teaching us.
"We're not just visitors. We're students, and students who are willing to learn are rare. Lysera floated closer, its voice gentle in their minds. You are learning. Mistakes are expected, yes, but you adapt. You notice. You ask without words. That is remarkable. Mara smiled, realizing that the embarrassment of yesterday, staring awkwardly at what she didn't understand, was gone. The lesson had shifted from shame to insight. Humans did not need to be perfect. They only needed to observe, adapt, and persist. As the alien sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the violet sand, Mara felt a profound sense of hope. The challenges ahead would not be simple. Misunderstandings would continue. Humans would stumble, but each step of observation, each effort to understand, would bring them closer to something extraordinary. True respect and recognition from a species far older and wiser than themselves. And somewhere in the back of her mind, Mara couldn't help but remember Lysera's teasing words. The question that had made her blush, that had tested her composure. Human, is what's between my legs confusing you? It was no longer awkward. It was a reminder that humans were unique, not in appearance, not in strength, but in curiosity, adaptability, and intelligence. They could stumble, they could misinterpret, they could fail, but they would always try, always notice, always learn, and that alone was enough to impress a species that had watched countless others fail before ever taking a single step toward understanding. Each of them tired, cautious, yet wide-eyed with wonder. This was only the beginning. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new puzzles, new moments where their patience, creativity, and human ingenuity would be tested. And Mara knew they were ready, not because they were the strongest or fastest, but because they were human. And humans had a way of surprising the universe. Lysera shimmered beside them, a silent companion in the twilight. Its form rippled with light, reflecting the colors of the sky. Mara felt a connection forming, not just with this alien, but with the universe itself. The questions they would face tomorrow would be difficult, but humans, with all their awkwardness and curiosity, were prepared to meet them. As night fell over the violet forest, Mara closed her eyes and let the alien world wash over her. Every sound, every light pattern, every gentle ripple in the sand spoke a language she was only beginning to understand, and she smiled, knowing that the adventure had only just begun. The following day dawned bright and warm, yet there was an unusual tension in the violet forest. Mara Collins stood at the edge of the clearing, watching the sunlight dance across the floating branches. Everything seemed peaceful, but she knew that calm could be deceptive. Yesterday's lessons from Lysera had prepared them for subtlety, observation, and patience. But today promised something different, something they could not predict. Lysera appeared silently, its shimmering form moving with elegance. Its voice entered their minds without warning. Today, human, you will face the puzzle of balance. Not just observation, not just understanding. You will need ingenuity. Mara glanced at her crew. Raj shifted nervously, adjusting his sleeves, and Alara's eyes shone with excitement. Puzzle.
What does that even mean? Lysera rippled slightly, almost like laughter?
You will see. Follow. The crew trailed behind as Lysera led them through the forest. The trees' colors seemed to shift with every step, and the plants' luminescent leaves reflected patterns that were difficult for the human eye to follow. Eventually, they reached a wide clearing, empty except for a large pool of water in the center. The surface shimmered unnaturally, reflecting the sky, the trees, and the humans in fractured, moving patterns. This pool, Lysera said, is not simple water. It responds to presence, thought, and intention. Each ripple, each movement is a puzzle. Solve it, and you will understand the lesson of balance. Fail, and the puzzle resets. Mara's heart raced. She had never faced a challenge like this. She stepped forward, trying to read the patterns. The water's surface shifted as she moved, colors blending and separating in strange sequences. It was unlike anything she had ever encountered on Earth. Raj leaned closer. It's like it's alive, or maybe like it's listening.
Exactly, Lysera replied. It listens to thought, not sound.
Movement, not force. Your species is skilled at tools, but this requires awareness.
Elara knelt beside the edge of the pool, watching the reflections dance. I think I can influence it.
Watch. She lifted her hand slightly, then waved it slowly. The water rippled, colors converging into a faint spiral.
See, it's responding.
Mara studied the spiral, noticing that it was not random.
It's following our focus, she said. Not just movement, but intention.
If we can work together, maybe we can guide it. Lysera shimmered brightly. Elaboration is key.
Many species fail because they compete. Humans, you have potential because you can adapt, notice, and cooperate. The challenge became clear. They needed to work as one, combining observation, patience, and creativity to influence the water into a harmonious pattern. Mara and her crew began experimenting. One would focus on a specific shape, another on color, and the third on movement. Slowly, the water responded, but only partially. The patterns shifted slightly, then collapsed. Hours passed with trial and error. Mara felt frustration rising. They had been praised for curiosity and observation, but this required something more: intuition, trust, and timing. One false movement and the pattern would break, forcing them to start again. Raj finally spoke, his voice quiet. We're thinking too much individually. Maybe we need to think as a group, not as 3 separate humans. Mara considered this. A shared intention, she said.
If we all focus together, maybe the pool will respond fully. They tried it. Mara closed her eyes, imagining the spiral in her mind.
Raj mirrored her movement slowly, and Elara adjusted the colors she wanted to influence. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the water began to shift as a single entity, the colors forming a perfect sequence, spiraling and dancing with harmony. Lysera's voice flowed through their minds, warm and approving.
Yes, human.
Balance, understanding, collaboration. You achieve it not through force, but through awareness.
This is your strength. Mara opened her eyes.
The water now reflected the forest, the sky, and their own forms with clarity and beauty unlike any human had ever seen. It was as if the pool recognized them, as if it acknowledged their ability to adapt, learn, and work together. But the lesson was not over. Lysera moved to the side, its form rippling. Observation alone is not enough. Action is required. Mara frowned. Action, but we just created balance. Lysera's form shimmered with a hint of amusement. Balance must be maintained, even under disturbance. A new variable will enter. How do you respond? From the edge of the clearing, a gust of wind swept across the forest, and with it, glowing spores fell into the pool. The water immediately reacted, spiraling wildly and threatening to undo all their work. Mara's heart sank. The careful pattern they had created, the balance they had achieved, began to unravel.
Stay calm, Mara instructed. Observe first.
React second. Raj and Elara nodded. They focused, each controlling their thoughts and movements, paying attention to how the pool responded to even the smallest gestures. Slowly, the spirals began to stabilize again, colors adjusting, patterns reforming. Mara realized something important. The challenge was not only about creating balance, but maintaining it under unexpected conditions. Humans were naturally curious, but patience and calm were required to succeed in unfamiliar situations. Lysera watched silently, its form pulsing with approval. You adapt, you persist, you learn. That is what makes humans remarkable. Many fail because they panic. You succeed because you notice, think, and act with intention. Hours passed as the humans practiced, learning the subtle interactions between intention, movement, and response. Each success built confidence. Each mistake provided insight. By the end of the day, Mara felt a profound respect for the lesson Lysera had designed.
It was more than a puzzle. It was almost 80% puzzle.
It was a mirror showing humans their greatest strengths: observation, collaboration, patience, and ingenuity. As the sun of the alien planet began to set, casting a warm glow across the violet forest, Mara and her crew rested near the pool. Their reflections shimmered in harmony with the patterns, a reminder of the day's lessons.
I never thought learning could feel like this, Elara said, her voice soft with awe.
Not with words, not with tools, but just noticing, thinking, and working together. Raj nodded. It's strange. We came here expecting to explore, to study, maybe even teach. Instead, we've been students, and I think that's the best part. Mara smiled, thinking about the long day. The initial embarrassment, the confusion, the awkwardness, they were all gone. Each challenge had taught them something new about themselves, about their species, and about the galaxy. Humans might be awkward and curious, but they could adapt in ways that few others could, and that adaptability, combined with intelligence and cooperation, was something the universe could not ignore. Lysera's form shimmered beside them, radiating soft light. Its voice carried warmth, amusement, and approval.
You will face more challenges, humans.
More puzzles, more variables, but each will reveal your potential. You are not merely observers. You are participants. Your curiosity, your ingenuity, and your persistence make you extraordinary. Mara glanced at her crew. Raj's eyes were bright, Elara's focused yet relaxed, and she could see the pride reflected even in the subtle movements of their bodies. They were tired, yes, but exhilarated. They had faced an alien challenge unlike any other and had succeeded. And Mara realized that the most important lesson of all was this: the universe was not a place to conquer or control. It was a place to understand, to adapt, and to grow. Humans had a natural ability to do all three. The day ended with the humans lying on the violet sands, watching the stars emerge one by one in the alien sky. The soft luminescence of the forest surrounded them, and Lysera's form shimmered gently nearby. Mara closed her eyes, thinking about the puzzle of balance, about observation and intention, about collaboration and persistence. She thought about the laughter, the subtle lessons, and even the teasing words from their first encounter. It had been a day of challenge, but also of triumph. Humans had proved, not through force or technology, but through awareness, patience, and cooperation, that they could meet an alien challenge and succeed. They had demonstrated ingenuity, adaptability, and the qualities that made their species special. And Mara knew, deep in her heart, that this was only the beginning. Tomorrow would bring new puzzles, new lessons, and new opportunities for humans to shine. They were awkward, curious, persistent, and capable, and that combination was something the universe had not yet fully realized. Lysera's voice entered their minds one last time as night fell. Sleep, humans.
Your lessons today are complete. Tomorrow you will learn more.
You will adapt. You will excel. And I will watch, with curiosity and admiration. Mara smiled as she drifted into sleep, the soft hum of the alien forest filling her mind. Humans had faced a challenge unlike any other, and had emerged stronger, wiser, and more capable. They were learning not just to survive, but to thrive. And the universe, vast and mysterious, was watching them, noticing the species that refused to be overlooked. The next morning, the violet forest glowed with soft light, as if the planet itself had awakened to greet the humans. Mara Collins stretched, feeling a mixture of excitement and determination. The previous day's puzzle of balance had taught them patience, observation, and collaboration, but Lysera's words echoed in her mind. Today would be a day for a new kind of test, one that would show whether humans could fully understand and earn the respect of the alien species. Lysera appeared before them, its shimmering form rippling like liquid light. Its voice, warm and melodic, entered their minds. Humans, you have learned well. Observation, patience, collaboration. You have proven you can adapt. Today you will face the trial of understanding, an opportunity to show your ingenuity and insight.
Are you ready?
Mara exchanged a glance with Raj and Alara.
We're ready, she said confidently.
We've learned from yesterday. We'll do our best. Lysera nodded, its form reflecting sunlight in brilliant flashes. Follow me. The trial begins. They walked through the forest, deeper than they had ever ventured. The air was alive with subtle sounds, colors shifting in the sunlight. The plants moved slightly, responding to their presence, and tiny creatures observed them curiously. Mara noticed how much the humans had changed since their arrival. They no longer approached the world with awkward curiosity. Instead, they moved carefully, observed keenly, and thought before acting. At last, they reached a circular clearing. In the center was a large structure, unlike anything Mara had ever seen. It appeared to be made of intertwined vines, glowing softly, rising in delicate arches that reflected the light like crystal. At first glance, it seemed like a work of art, but Lysera's words warned that there was more to it. This, Lysera said, is the construct of understanding. Many have approached it and failed. It responds to thought, perception, and ingenuity. You must solve it, not by force, but by insight. Only then will it reveal the wisdom it holds.
Mara felt her pulse quicken. How do we start? She asked.
Lysera's form shifted slightly, almost like a smile. Observe, notice. Think. Your species has strengths others lack. Imagination, creativity, and persistence. Use them.
Ooh.
The humans approached the construct carefully. The glowing vines seemed to react to their presence, shifting subtly, forming new patterns. Mara extended her hand slowly, feeling the energy in the structure. Each vine vibrated with color, as if responding to her thoughts. She realized immediately that the challenge was not physical. It was mental, emotional, and intuitive. Raj leaned closer. It's like it wants us to think in patterns, but not just one pattern. A combination of patterns, colors, shapes, movement, all together.
Ilara's eyes lit up. It's like a puzzle,
But not a puzzle you can solve alone. We have to work together.
Mara nodded. Exactly.
Yesterday we learned balance. Today we need harmony. They began experimenting. Mara focused on one part of the structure, guiding its colors into a sequence she imagined. Raj adjusted shapes and movement, watching how the vines responded. Alara tuned the energy, synchronizing her thoughts with theirs. Slowly, the construct began to shift in response. Colors blended into harmony, shapes intertwined gracefully, and movement flowed as if guided by a single consciousness. Lysera's voice entered their minds again. Harmony requires cooperation, creativity, and patience. Many fail because they attempt to dominate the construct. You succeed because you notice, you adapt, you work together. Hours passed. Each attempt brought them closer to perfection, yet the construct would occasionally shift unexpectedly, responding to subtle flaws in their attention. Mara realized that the structure was not only testing their skill, but their ability to remain calm, aware, and persistent. At one point, Raj's hand trembled slightly, causing a small ripple in the pattern. I messed it up, he said, frustration creeping into his voice. Mara placed her hand over his.
It's okay. Remember yesterday.
Observation first, action second. Notice what the construct wants.
Adapt. We'll fix it together.
Elera added. Exactly. It's not about perfection. It's about awareness and adjustment. With renewed focus, they continued. Slowly, the construct responded perfectly to their combined intention. Colors flowed seamlessly, shapes formed intricate patterns, and movement became graceful and synchronized. The structure pulsed softly, then rose higher, glowing brighter than ever before. Lysira's form shimmered with pride. Humans, you have done what many others cannot. You did not rely on force, speed, or technology. You relied on awareness, cooperation, and creativity. You have earned understanding. You have earned respect. Mara felt a surge of pride. It was more than recognition. It was affirmation that humans, despite their perceived weaknesses, could excel in ways that other species could not. Their curiosity, adaptability, and intelligence had allowed them to succeed where others failed. The construct began to dissolve slowly, the vines retracting while leaving behind a faint glowing symbol on the ground. Mara knelt and traced it with her hand. It pulsed gently, as if acknowledging her presence. Lysira's voice entered their minds once more.
This symbol represents insight, patience, and collaboration.
It is a gift for those who succeed not through dominance, but through understanding. You, humans, have proven yourselves worthy. Mara stood and looked at her crew. Raj and Alara were smiling, exhaustion mixed with exhilaration. We did it, Mara whispered. We really did it. Lysira's form rippled, glowing brighter. You have exceeded expectation. Most species assume superiority, attempt control, and fail. You assumed curiosity, applied observation, and adapted. That is rare. That is human. Mara felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She realized that humanity had something unique, a combination of imagination, persistence, empathy, and ingenuity that allowed them to succeed in situations that seemed impossible. They had faced an alien challenge, one designed to test not strength or technology, but intellect, awareness, and cooperation. And they had triumphed. The alien's teasing question from their first encounter returned to her mind. Human, is what's between my legs confusing you? It no longer embarrassed her. Instead, it symbolized the beginning of their journey, the awkwardness of first contact, and the growth that followed. Humans had learned not only to observe, but to understand, not only to adapt, but to excel. Lysira moved closer, its form radiating gentle light.
Rest now, humans. You have earned it.
But know this, the universe is vast. There will be more challenges, more puzzles, more opportunities for growth.
You are ready. You are extraordinary.
Mara nodded, feeling the weight and wonder of the words. We will be ready, she replied silently. As the humans settled on the violet sands, watching the alien sun dip below the horizon, they reflected on everything they had learned. Curiosity, patience, collaboration, and creativity had carried them through every challenge. They had adapted to a world unlike any they had known, learned the rhythms and intentions of an alien mind, and triumphed where others might have failed. Elera whispered, I think Lysira actually enjoys teaching us. We've not only learned about this planet, but about ourselves. Humans can do so much when we work together and pay attention. Raj smiled, looking at the glowing symbol left by the construct. We've shown that humans are capable of more than we often believe. Maybe the universe will see us differently now. Mara looked at her crew and then back at Lysera. We came here to explore, to understand, and to make contact. But we also showed that humans, awkward, curious, persistent humans, can rise to any challenge if we remain aware, patient, and cooperative. The alien shimmered softly. And you have done so with grace, humor, and insight. Few species can match that combination. Remember this lesson, humans. Remember yourselves. The night deepened, and the stars above the violet forest sparkled like scattered jewels. Mara felt a sense of fulfillment, pride, and connection. Humans had not only learned from Lysera, they had proven themselves. They had turned awkward curiosity into insight, mistakes into lessons, and observation into mastery. As sleep claimed them under the alien sky, Mara thought about the journey so far. Every puzzle, every challenge, every teasing comment had been a step toward understanding, not just of the alien world, but of what it meant to be human. Humans had curiosity, intelligence, adaptability, and the ability to cooperate in ways that few species could imagine. Lysera watched silently, its form flickering gently in the starlight. It had seen countless species come and go, but humans were different. They stumbled, they questioned, they observed, and yet they persisted. They adapted.
They learned. They succeeded.
And in that moment, the galaxy seemed to pause, acknowledging the species that refused to be underestimated. Humans were extraordinary, not because of strength or technology, but because of their minds, hearts, and relentless curiosity. Mara smiled, closing her eyes as sleep overtook her. Tomorrow would bring new mysteries, new lessons, and new adventures. But she knew this truth. Humans had proven themselves worthy, remarkable, and capable of facing anything the universe could throw at them. And nothing, neither challenge nor alien complexity, could make them doubt it. The violet forest hummed quietly, stars twinkled above, and humans slept peacefully. Their potential fully realized, their place in the universe just beginning to be understood.